and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Here we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives solve some of life's complex challenges through understanding the practices of mindfulness and how they can help. Each episode is in an environment free of judgment and criticism, with a focus on authenticity and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Comparison is a very foolish attitude because each is unique and incomparable. Once this understanding settles in you, jealousy disappears. Each is unique and incomparable. You are just yourself. Nobody has ever been like you, and nobody will ever be like you. And you need to be like, and you don't need to be like anybody else either. Existence creates only originals. It does not believe in carbon copies. That's a quote from Osho. Have you ever felt resentment at another's good fortune? Today, we are here to talk to you about one of the 7 deadly sins, envy. Scary.
Right after Halloween.
Yeah, right. Remember that movie 7? Oh, man, that was a great movie.
Oh,
Anyway,
great movie, yeah.
So envy, we're here to talk to you about that, why it hurts us, where it could be helpful. I know it sounds kind of crazy to say that envy could be helpful, but it can be in certain situations, and what we can do to keep it in check when needed. Each week, myself, I'm John McCaskill over here in Colorado Springs, and my brother from another mother, my co-host Will Schneider there in New York City. We work to break down and demystify an aspect of mindfulness. There you go, his MTM shirt, MTM, Men Talking Mindfulness. We are working to break down mindfulness and why it can be meaningful to you and why it should be meaningful to you. Before we jump into the show, I'm going to turn it over to Will for some announcements, that opening practice that we always do, and then we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes of the show. Will, brother, good to see you.
Awesome. Yeah, likewise, John. Always a pleasure to do a show. Always a pleasure to see you, and always a pleasure to do a show with you. I love doing this. So, hey, quick announcements. Just get on YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. We have an easy handle now. It's youtube.com and then / at Men Talking Mindfulness. So thanks for supporting us and subscribing to our YouTube page. We're consistently putting out new content, more content to come. I don't think there's any more announcements that I can think of. There's nothing on our sheet here. But let's just jump right in. We'll do these 5 breath grounding practice to open things up. And you can use this breathing anytime you need to kind of relax, ground, and get back to your proper self. Awesome. So let's start with a nice exhale out the mouth. Empty completely out. And then take a big giant inhale for 5, 4. Keep going. 3, 2, 1. And like you're blowing a candle, exhale all the way out. Again, in. Out. Again, in. Out. 2 more in. 1 more inhale. Let it go. Awesome. Take a moment and just feel the different experience you might be having after just taking a few breaths, and make some movements and get yourself ready to receive some wisdom, hopefully, for our little episode about envy. And we're going to start, how about I do this, John? I'll just start with a definition, and then I think it'd be nice to kind of roll through some quotes. A few more quotes I think would be good, just to kind of, from various sources. But from Wikipedia, envy is an emotion which occurs when a person lacks another superior quality, achievement, or possession, and either desires it or wishes that the other lacked it. So that's from Wikipedia. Aristotle defines. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick, Will. So it's another's superior quality, with another's being possessive, right? So
got it.
Obviously,
okay.
lacking or envying the other person's stance or state there. So sorry, just wanted to.
No, that's great. Yeah. So envy is an emotion which occurs when a person lacks another's, yeah, there you go, superior quality, achievement, or possession, and either desires it to, or wishes it that the other lacked it. Aristotle defines envy as pain at the sight of another's good fortune. We're going to talk about a lot about comparison. That first quote that we opened was all about comparison. Stirred by those who have what we ought to have. Bertrand Russell said that envy was one of the most potent causes of unhappiness. Recent research considered the conditions under which it occurs, how people dealt with it, and whether it can inspire others to emulate those they envy. So we're going to talk about that as well, using it as a positive resource instead of something that just tears you down on the inside. Anything there, John, before I jump into some
Yeah,
quotes?
as you were reading that, the talking about another's good fortune, and there was another piece where envy can be one of the most potent causes of unhappiness. Something that we don't really have on the topic sheet here, because we normally have notes that we kind of go off of, but just something that bubbled up in my head is we can even envy ourselves. And what I mean by that is we can envy our past selves. Hey,
Yeah.
we look at the picture, and we're going to talk about body image in one of our future episodes. And maybe we look at a picture where we were thinner or in better shape, and we envy that. Or we look at a time in our lives when we may have felt happier, and we envy that state of being in our minds, and that can cause depression, right? Looking back on our past and being like, oh man, if only I could go back. So I just wanted to bring that up too, because yes, we're going to be talking a lot about envy of others' positions, others' possessions, others' success, but there is envy for our own lives, our past lives, and we're going to address how to get past envy with self-compassion and gratitude.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure, because that bubbled up in my mind as you were reading those definitions.
Yeah, that's true. It's like our younger selves. We're like, oh, I used to be so strong. Or I used to be able to, I ran so fast.
The glory days.
Right.
Reliving the glory days. It always makes me think of Napoleon Dynamite and what is it, Uncle whatever his name is, and he's like, oh yeah, back in the day I used to be able to throw this steak over those mountains. Like he's continually living in the past, and that's what envy can cause us to do. If we envy ourselves, our past selves, we can live in that past. But hey, what are we doing with mindfulness? We're living in the present, living in this present moment, here and now. So anyway, I could go down a random rabbit hole there, but I just felt compelled to address that.
No, I love it. We're gonna keep going down this rabbit hole, but let's listen to hear what the Buddha has to say. He goes, "Do not overrate what you have received, nor envy others. He who envies others does not obtain peace of mind." That's the Buddha.
Amen.
Here's Gretchen Rubin. Negative emotions like loneliness, envy, and guilt have an important role to play in a happy life. They're a big flashing sign that something needs to change. So that's something we're going to focus on today for sure. This one I really like, by Josh Billings. He goes, "Love looks through a telescope." That's beautiful, right? What a great image.
Yeah.
Love looks through a telescope. Envy looks through a microscope, like picking things apart and like, I should have done this, I should have done that. I'm thinking of those, pictures of my old self. It's like, oh, look at my shoulders or something. Getting or something.
All about
look at how
body
great my
image,
tan
man.
was at the beach.
Come back for the body image episode soon, folks.
And here we go. This is an anonymous one. Envy is the art of counting someone else's blessings and not your own.
I love that one. I love that one. That's spot on, right? I mean, that's
so.
And this comes into play, yes, in our families. It comes into play in our workplaces. It comes into play in society, and even like I think it's exacerbated quite often by social media, and we're going to get into that too. What used to be comparing ourselves to our neighbors right next door to the Joneses, right? Hey, they have a nice car, they have a nice house, they got the new super sprinkler system or whatever. Now we compare ourselves to the world, right? And how stressful was keeping up with the Joneses. That's another thing envy does. It causes stress and anxiety. How stressful and anxiety inducing was that, just keeping up with the Joneses next door? Now magnify that with social media. How stressful is that? And there's obviously great things about social media. We're on social media. That's what we're broadcasting.
Yeah, right.
But it's very easy to get sucked into the perfect, quote unquote, for those of you who are listening to the show, I'm doing air quotes, the perfect lives that everyone else is living, and say, well, that person has a better body than me. That person has a better car than me, a better home, a better life. They're more successful, because that's typically what people post on social media, is the good stuff, right? They're not going to post. Well, sometimes they do. Sometimes they do post stuff that's troubling them, challenges that they're having, and that's authentic and real. But a lot of times, social media is not authentic and real. So that's another rabbit hole that we will kind of delve into a little bit here.
Yeah, well, why don't we stick with that right now, John, for a
Yeah.
little bit, and because it's all about comparison, or a lot of ways. Like as I'm doing this research, it's like it starts at such a young age, especially in schools, where we're always trying to be better than
Right.
other people in our class. So that comparison starts right there, and then that comparison will lead to envy, because if
Right.
somebody else gets a better grade, or somebody else like gets a gold star, or I remember the scratch and sniff stickers, John.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I used to love those. And who knows what the hell? Now I'm thinking of it. Who knows what the hell I was putting up my nose? It was like getting high on fucking scratch and sniff stickers, but they did smell really good.
Yeah.
But that's where it starts at a very young, impressionable mind, and then also,
dude.
But we have parents that have come through the same school system, and therefore it's like, oh well, how did so and so do in the test, or how did so and so do in that race?
Yeah. Well, the other side of that is siblings, right? So I've got 3 kids. My daughter. So I've got 3 kids. My oldest daughter, she's 5. She would tell me very quickly right now, Daddy, I'm not 5, I'm 5.5. But she told me the other day, she's like, Daddy, you know what would keep us from fighting over toys? I was like, what, sweetheart? She's like, if you bought us 3 of everything.
Oh my God. She's got it all figured out.
Yeah, she's got it all figured out. Like that's not how we want to do things, but they envy, like as soon as one kid has a toy, they envy the other because their toy isn't as good. So it starts there, or it can start there. But it also, as like I went through the same school that my 3 older sisters went through. My younger brother went through that same school. And as I was going through school, all my teachers would be like, oh yeah, I remember your sisters, such and such and such. Are you going to do as well as they did? And I was like, oh, so now I have to live up to their shadows, right? And my brother says the same thing after all 4 of us had now gone through. So there's yes, comparing, like as parents, comparing friends or similar age students, like, oh, Johnny, some random student got an A in this class. Why didn't you get an A? Why aren't you doing as well? But then the competition or rivalry within the family and through school, it's pretty wild how it's exacerbated through families and through schools.
Well, this brings up, it reminds me of what we said earlier about the Osho quote: each is unique and incomparable.
Yeah.
But also, we can use envy as a good thing, in the sense of, like, if somebody's doing better at you at school or on the track and field or whatever, field of play, whether it's academic or whether it's an actual sport, you can use that as motivation, right? Which is a beautiful aspect of envy. Use it as a tool for change and for your own improvement,
right?
Instead of like using it to belittle yourself or feel less than, or begin to develop a rage, if you will, in that case, in some cases where you begin to tear other people down because you're so jealous of them, so envious. Yeah.
So I saw in one place where we were doing some research for the show that the difference between healthy competition and envy. Healthy competition is you see somebody else attain something and you don't wish to take that away from them. You wish to attain that yourself. So you wish to work harder so that you can attain that promotion, you can attain that nice car, you can attain whatever it is. Envy is you see them and you want to take that away from them. Right. And, which, it hasn't been in any of our definitions. And I don't know that that's necessarily the same, but it's an interesting way of looking at it. It's like, oh yeah, competition is healthy. You want to attain the same level as them, or maybe rise above. But the envy is like, not only do you see them attaining something and have some type of angst or anger about it, but you want to take it away from them. You don't want them to have it because you feel you deserve that.
Right. Well, that's a self-sabotaging loop,
Yeah.
inside and outside, right? So you want to sabotage them, right? And cut away, their achievements and this other person's progress because of an unchecked emotional state of envy, right? But that comes from the inside. So therefore, also what's happening in this case, if you want to tear somebody down or sabotage them in some way, you're self-sabotaging yourself with that envy and that jealousy and all like negative, all that stress that comes with that, because your unwillingness to see, to look at somebody, to aspire to somebody else's achievement instead of letting it like crush you in some level and tear you down, and you begin to question your ability, and you lower your self-esteem, and therefore you're in like, you're in just a negative space. So it works both ways. So it's really just an outward reflection of what's going on the inside in a lot of ways.
And I want to take that self-sabotaging one step further. The other way that you can self-sabotage through envy is you see somebody got a promotion at work, or you see somebody got some kind of thing, that
a new car or something, or whatever.
So and now you're like, but I deserve that promotion. And I put in so much work and I didn't get that promotion. So now I'm not going to work as hard. I'm going to show my boss, F my boss. I'm going to show him or her by not working as hard. And now you're going to maybe not only not receive a promotion, but you may get fired because you were trying to show your boss what, why they were wrong, he or she was wrong in the decision they made to promote that other person or give that other person a raise. So it's self-sabotaging in multiple ways, with the stress, the anxiety, the sadness that it can cause you, the depression, but it can also be self-sabotaging and you wanting to get back at them, either the person that got the promotion or the person that gave them the promotion, and it backfires on you.
And then it's also, you're taking down the team. The company is not performing at its best because, like, you're only as strong as its weakest link, right? And it's like, and then you're punking yourself. You know what I mean? Like, really, it's just like, if that's the way you want to show up and represent yourself, with jealousy and rage and and envy all through this comparison, and then also the unwillingness to make change, to step it up, to go get more education, to whatever, to take whatever kind of skills that you need in order to, move forward. And maybe how about instead of, I really enjoyed Remy Adeleke came up a lot, and I was researching this as far as like envy and comparison, because I love what the guy's doing. Like, I really do. Like, he is really doing some great things in the world. And that episode has just really inspired me in so many ways. Like, one thing I'm doing physically is that treadmill challenge.
I just started that. I saw Seth Dickerson also started it.
Yeah. It's great. Like, we're starting something, and it's like, and we're only doing 20 minutes, whereas Remy's doing like an hour. I'm like, dude, you're fucking insane. He's a beast. Right. But that's what I mean. Like a beast. You're like, I want to, I want to be a loving, kind beast, John. You know what I mean?
Look at us. We have envy for Remy's ability to do an hour on the treadmill. No, that's healthy competition. That's healthy competition.
Right. And we're going to have Rennie Curran, who is on the show, talk to us about healthy competition. We'll bring that up. But, I'm inspired. Like, what my experience has been with, I see, great podcasters. I see people doing great things in the world. And I just want to match. I want to rise to my own greatness. So I put in the work, as much as I can. And if whatever work I don't know, then I start asking questions and developing some of those skills. But, I don't know. This is one way why don't we do this, John? Like, why don't we go into the positive aspects of envy?
Yeah, for sure.
But go ahead. Yeah. One thing I really enjoyed reading about envy is that it's self-informing. In the sense of, like, if you're envying something, there's something that you can change in order to not feel that way anymore.
Right.
So whatever that can be, whether it's, again, acquiring a new skill or putting yourself in the arena in some way instead of living as a spectator. Yeah.
I think envy with the mindset of abundance, right? We talked about the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. If you have the abundance mindset and you are envious, that allows for that healthy competition.
There you go.
And that is, you have to have that self-informed mindset as well for that to accomplish, or for that to be accomplished. So for those of you who are not aware of the scarcity versus abundance mindset, I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory, but scarcity is like, basically we look at a piece of pie, or rather a pie, and we think that there's a limited number of pieces. And yes, with a pie there is that, but that's not how life is. We can have promotions, we can have success, we can have, nice cars, nice houses, we can have internal success in our hearts and minds that is unlimited. And that's the abundance mindset. We can say, hey, you know what? I saw, like, Will moved into a new apartment, and rather than being envious of his new apartment, I'm celebrating his new apartment for him. Great. That's fantastic. That doesn't keep me from getting a new apartment or getting a new office space. It doesn't limit me. And that's where I think another difference is seeing, for where envy is in a positive mindset, seeing things through that abundance mindset with envy, that creates competition, healthy competition, and it's healthy. As soon as you start seeing it as, oh, fuck, Will got a new apartment. Well, there's only so many new apartments in this world. I'm not going to get one of them. I'm screwed. That's where I think we flip that positive side of envy to that negative. But yeah, it's very self-informing. It's self-informing in other ways too, in that, what is it inside you that's causing that envy? What are you lacking? Is it that you're lacking that promotion? Is it that you're lacking that new car? It's probably something deeper than that. And if you can do that really deep introspective work, where that comes through mindfulness and meditation, you can see that it's actually much bigger, and maybe you can go after filling that void rather than trying to get the new car or the new promotion or the new apartment. If you can fill that void, that's where you're going to get that sense of joy and happiness. And that's how that compassion and, giving to others, giving help to others. With James Doty that we had on just a couple weeks ago, I mean, he was super successful, right? At one point, $80 million. But he realized that he had the cars, he had the houses, he had an island, or was in the process of procuring an island, and none of that made him happy.
Right. Yeah. It comes from within, for sure.
Yeah, it comes from within.
Also, I think it's hard sometimes, because if you grew up, your influences around you are of scarcity, of constant comparison, always like in a conversation of like, oh, I wish I would have had that, or like, or just tearing somebody else down for their successes. Like, that's going to take work. I mean, it's going to take a lot of work in order to combat some psychology and programming in your mind, especially at a young formative age. So that's like one thing to be aware of, but it takes work. I mean, it's not like it's impossible to see yourself as a bright light and as a bright person, and somebody that's very able and can develop skills in order to grow. But it takes work. And everything we're talking about here, as far as envy and motivating you, is going to take work. And you have to be willing to show up and do that work. And what that work looks like, it depends whatever skill you're trying to acquire. And I think but that also brings up for me is, surrounding yourself with people that are motivating, people that are in a positive conversation with themselves and with life, and might be mentioning others, sounding like comparison, but as a way to aspire to more greatness.
Right.
So it's like, your circle of influence is a big deal here as well.
For sure.
Looking for a role model and wanting to change is, one of the positive aspects of envy.
I mean, you're to me, you're a role model, right? I mean, like, I know how you take care of yourself, and take care of your health, and you are a role model, and I aspire to be like you. But again, it's not like, hey, I'm aspiring to be like you, and if I get my health and wealth, now you're going to lose it. Right. It's right. There's the abundance. It's there. There's an unlimited number of, or an unlimited amount of health and wellness.
Yeah.
And there's, it's, you having it is not going to take away from me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But I aspire to be like you in that regard, and in others.
Yeah. Thanks. The same, John. Say thanks. Like it's, I'm humbled. And
Caught
here's
you off guard there, huh?
no, I know. I was like, oh, John, you're making me blush over here. Thanks. Maybe my shoulders are big enough. I'm just kidding. Right? Just go. It's we'll keep. So envy provides us with info about our current situation and the motivation to do something if we allow it to. I know we're kind of saying the same thing in a different way.
Yeah.
And there you go. Mindfulness can help us shift from negative to positive experience because of the awareness that it can bring. I think ask like the questions you might want to ask yourself. Ask what needs to get done to get there, or what I've been really working with and understanding on a deep level is what are the hard choices. Like what are the things that I my mind and my ego and my typical state of being that will be challenged, through a hard choice. What are the hard choices that need to, maybe that is, for some, watching less television or drinking less alcohol, or, getting off of your social media, but using mindfulness and being very strategic about like, I'm not going to do this thing in the morning anymore. I'm not going to do this in the evening anymore, and instead replace it with something that's inspiring. Like I am going to go work out, or I am going to start eating healthier, or I'm going to, start to create new positive influences in my life with the friends that I have and the people that I'm around, and maybe the content that I'm consuming. But it's going to be a challenge. And that's kind of like the hard choice part is like, you're going to have to challenge in order to change. You're going to have to challenge the way that you've been doing things. And, it's not easy sometimes, but what I really like about what we're discovering about envy, it's like a calling card for self-informing way of, you can do this. Like you wouldn't have this comparison and this desire to be like somebody else if you didn't have that ability to do it on your own.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you get there? That's the unique part. That's the part that it's just like, just because someone else, followed this particular path, it doesn't mean that that's what your path is going to look like.
Yeah.
Maybe you take the first couple
Not
steps
linear.
on that path. Not at all. It's not linear, but it's yours. You need to own that. And I think that's, the part of what we're trying to do here with the M2 experience in 90 days, or, anytime we're trying to offer anything out there, whether it's a retreat, is to begin to give that opportunity to step back, self-reflect, right, and then step forward and reintegrate into another way of doing, another way of being, and it really comes down to taking those moments and be like, am I happy? Am I doing the right things in order for to be happy, to be more successful, to be more healthy, or whatever your ingredients are for joy and success and happiness.
But then taking that, am I happy, and then saying no, and then saying, why am I not happy? And then saying, because I don't have the new car, because I don't have the new house, because that's where envy that's where the dark side of envy comes in, right? It's and we have a list of things here that make envy or can make envy a dark emotion. It is a corrosive emotion. It can cause physical and emotional detriment. It causes that stress. It causes that stress hormone, cortisol. Adds weight, adds all sorts of anxiety to your life, adds sadness, depression that we've already covered. We're comparing ourselves, again, not only to the Joneses next door, but the entire world through social media. But at work, we're comparing ourselves to our colleagues and their successes. We're comparing ourselves in our family to our siblings' successes, or even our parents' successes. A lot of us as children, we look at our parents and we're like, well, by this age, they had this done. They had done, they had written a book. They had run a company. They had sailed across the globe. Who knows?
Right,
but we not only compare ourselves to our siblings, but we compare ourselves to everyone, and that includes our parents. And maybe the flip side too. If you're a parent and you have children, and your children are uber successful, and you say, you know what? When I was 40 years old, I hadn't accomplished that yet. But here's my son. He's a 20-year-old millionaire. I can only hope that for my son.
Yeah,
He's
right.
3 right now, so I'm not super envious of. Well, that's not true. I am envious of my children. I'll fully admit it. I mean, my parents did a fantastic job raising us, and they provided what they could, and they raised us with loving hearts, and really taught us a lot about the world. But in all honesty and transparency, we live on a small farm with horses, and my kid gets to run around in the freaking yard right next to horses and chickens, and my kids have a good life. And I look
Yeah.
at them and I'm like, you know what? I'm envious now that I think about it. As I'm saying this, I think I am envious of my kids.
Hmm.
So
Well,
I don't
well,
know,
well,
not in a negative way. I'm proud. I'm proud
well,
that
well,
I'm
well,
able to provide that for them.
well, let's take a moment. Like, what can you learn from them, John?
Yeah.
Like in this
Oh,
envious state, what can you, see in, just pick one of your, maybe your son, right?
yeah.
Like, what is something that he's teaching you, but
Yeah.
what is the envy informing, right?
Right.
And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
how can you know what I mean? Then how can
Yeah.
you,
Well,
you know,
I am seeing in my children that they appreciate what my wife and I are providing for them. And
awesome.
and and so when I take a step back, I'm saying, okay, did I appreciate what my parents did for my 3 older sisters and my younger brother and myself enough? Did I appreciate that enough? And I try to express that. I mean, my parents are still alive, and I try to express that to them regularly about how amazing they are and how proud I am of
Hmm.
them, and then how thankful I am for what they did for me. So I guess I appreciate, and I'm learning from my son the appreciation of their current life status and
Mhm.
what they have in their lives, what they've been given. So what can I do with that? Not only appreciate my parents, but appreciate my life status in the here and now.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that, hey, you know what? I have clean drinking water. I can literally go to the tap and run water from the tap and drink it. I
Yeah.
can take a hot shower if I want. And I know we talk about cold showers regularly, but
Yeah.
if I
Right.
wanted to, I have heat in my house and I can take a hot shower. I have a car that I can drive to and from work. So I have
Hmm.
to be very thankful of what I do have. And that is another piece about envy is being thankful for what I have, and
Hmm.
expressing that gratitude regularly, but not only to others, but expressing it internally. And you know what? I'm thankful for this. I don't
Hmm.
need the promotion. I don't need that extra car. I don't need whatever. So
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm being self-informed through the envy, but also
Yeah.
through my children.
Well, kids teach me a lot about, just being fun and free and letting go and being
Oh yeah,
authentic. You know what I mean? All those, right?
yeah.
And that's what they're like. That I really and I try.
This right here, man.
There you go. I know that was so cool. Your phone case. I saw
Yeah,
that
my
on
phone
LinkedIn.
case, I've gotta I keep that in mind to keep the fun side of things in my life, right? I can get very serious and get wrapped up in my to-dos and my
Yeah.
daily list, of things that I gotta get through, my meetings, my back-to-back Zoom calls. I'm like, by the end of the day, I'm like, "All right, I got it all accomplished. I'm a superhero, but did I have any fun?
Yeah.
No,
That's
maybe
true.
not."
Yeah.
We talked about this in the psychedelic, one of the psychedelic episodes, is that my kids, through
Mm.
my psychedelic, journey, I experienced them having fun, the 3 of them having fun, and a 4th child being there and not having fun, kind of being left out of the loop. And when I
Mm.
approached the group, that 4th child was me. And I was like,
Mm.
"Holy cow, I'm not having enough fun." And since then, I try to have a lot more fun, and I feel a lot more sense of fulfillment in my life because of that. But now I'm getting on a completely different tangent, and I'm
No.
off
Yeah.
I'm off the envy topic. So let's come
No.
back
It's
come back to
okay.
the envy.
Great.
So yeah, we talked about comparing our levels of success, status comparison. What about uh, if we are the person who is successful? We are the one who gets the promotion, the new car.
Mm. Mm.
How can we tell that someone else is envious of us, and what can we do about that? What does that do to a relationship? Let's talk about that.
Oh, well, should we read through these like 10 signs that
Yeah,
someone is
yeah,
envious? All right. Yeah.
yeah.
This is like, so, I mean, this is good. This is a good mindful moment, if you will. Cause if you are one of those people like John just talked about that is achieving success or recently has achieved success, or, this is what to maybe be on the lookout for, in people that are in your life. And this is probably going to be coming from maybe the people that are closest to you. or the people that are in your circle of influence, or at least around you enough. 10 signs. Here we go. Someone is envious of you is one, diminishes your accomplishments or downplays your achievements. So it's not such a big deal. Like, yeah, so-and-so got promoted the other day too. So shut the fuck up or whatever, they might start speaking bad of you or make up rumors. They're extremely competitive. So they start like one-upping. It's definitely a sign of of a lack of confidence right there. And obviously a sign of someone being jealous and envious. They'll start criticizing or start tearing you down. Another one is, backhanded comments or sarcasm or passive aggressive comments or behavior. And then trying to steal your spotlight is another one. Or this is a good one. They get nosy, trying to find dirt, on you so they can feel better about themselves. And that'll probably lead into a rumor, if they're trying to get nosy and trying to find some dirt on you. And they might start like petty bullshit arguments, or gloat about your mistakes. That's such a sign of envy. Or might even give you bad advice on purpose, which is like, eesh.
That's ridiculous.
So,
but I mean, I'll be honest, I've done some of that myself. I've one-upped people, tried to one-up them. I've criticized them and tore them down because I was envious of them. But the flip side, I've also experienced this from others. When I've had a success story, somebody has tried to one-up me. Somebody has started bad rumors about me. Someone has tried to steal the spotlight, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's important to be aware of those people, and then be brave enough to address it with them. Hey, you know what? I noticed that you started this rumor about me. Hey, I know that the advice that you gave me was bad advice, and you did it on purpose. Why did you do that? And then have a difficult discussion about it. And then again, maybe you can help them, because we talked about envy being self-informing. Maybe you can help them see that they're being envious and help them get that self-informing side of it, so that they realize that it's not the new car, the promotion, or anything else. It's maybe recognition that they're lacking, or appreciation that they're lacking, and that can be given to them in other ways. So I think it's important to recognize that you are being envious, but also recognize that people around you are being envious of you, and have those very difficult and open conversations. Maybe it'll lead to something great. Maybe it won't, but it's worth having.
It's definitely worth having, and especially those difficult conversations are where I've experienced my most growth in a lot of ways. Just for being the ability to look someone in the eye and be like, "Yo, that's kind of fucked up," or just like, it's like, but compassionately and kindly trying to address it, and not coming off as a threat or trying to or come off like we're gonna, get into some sort of physical altercation in some ways.
Yeah,
but
talking about having a conversation. If you're the person who has had the success and you notice that somebody else is envious of you, and you have that conversation, that's great. But I've also had the other thing happen. Not that I'm outrageously successful, but I feel that I've had
some good shit, John. You've done some good shit in the world, man.
Good shit, right? And totally. About a year and a half ago, I had a former friend, or he's still a friend of mine, but a friend of mine had kind of just gone dark. I hadn't heard from him, hadn't seen anything from him in a long time. And he reached out to me kind of out of the blue, and he's like, "Hey, John, I just got to admit that I saw you accomplishing some things that I was envious of, and I was angry and bitter. And then I realized, you know what, you're accomplishing things, your success does not negate my ability to succeed." And his reaching out to me allowed me to have a conversation with him, and also realize I didn't even realize that he was envious. But we had that conversation. So you can be the person having the envy, or the one being envied, and you can still have that conversation, and it can help to mend relationships and friendships. So I think those are important conversations to have.
For sure. If you're going to do it in an adult way, in a mature
Yeah,
way, and not
mindful
trying
way,
to
right?
like, yeah, and not trying to like, yeah, again, like cut someone's feet out from underneath them, or
Right.
or
Sure. Of course.
sabotage them in some
Of
ways.
course.
Like, because it can really envy can get really ugly sometimes, like
Yeah.
very, very, very ugly.
Well,
And
let's talk about. So we've
yeah,
talked about, obviously we've talked about the negative side of envy quite
mhm.
ad nauseum almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Not you so much. I've been
No, all
beating that
good.
dead
We
horse. But let's talk about ways to overcome that. That's what we're here to talk about, right? Ways to overcome that
yeah,
envy, ways to get it under control. And I know you watched and listened to Jay Shetty quite a
yeah.
bit. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, he had said, one of the best ways, and it comes back to the course I'm taking at with Sea Cares, Doty's organization is self. It really starts with
Yeah.
self compassion and empathy, and then leading with gratitude. I think the first, also what the Buddha said in the beginning, the quote we mentioned, it's like, I think what's really important is be grateful for what you have,
Right.
and count your blessings with what you have instead of what you don't have. You're always going to focus on, the grass is always greener, or because somebody's doing this and you're not doing the same thing, or you're always like, social media is just, it creates so much FOMO,
Yeah.
and envy, because of the FOMO, or, and so what about, instead of doom scrolling, start counting your blessings of like, well, what is it, the things that I have, and then maybe taking a step further, it's like, well, how did I achieve those things,
Yeah.
and taking that energy of like, the fact that you're able to, I mean, like you mentioned my apartment, like I was able to get into this place because of fucking like 20 years of hard work in New York
Yeah.
City.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I mean? It took a
That's another
long
thing.
time to get here. Yeah.
Great point, right?
Yeah.
Is yes, it's very easy to see your neighbor next to you and they get the nice car, they get the new house,
Yeah.
whatever. But you have to understand the work that they put in. You have to appreciate
Yes.
the work that they put in. And when you can take that
Yeah.
step back, I think that's another piece is, yes, appreciating what you have, appreciating
Mhm.
what, writing down, being grateful for what we have, but then also understanding the work that those who are getting these other things that we're envious of, the work that they're putting in. And
Yeah.
sometimes, is it worth it, right? Like the people
Yeah.
who are grinding themselves
True.
80 hours a week, and yes, they're millionaires, but is it worth it? Are they living
Yeah.
life, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's another piece that we got to address. And sorry, I got to come back to,
No, no, no.
as you were talking about what Jay Shetty had said, and
Mhm.
or sorry, the Buddha had said. I just compared Jay Shetty to the Buddha, but anyhow,
They're both in that lineage, though.
yes. So I was smiling because I was thinking of this weekend. So I had my wife took my son to Florida, and then I had my two daughters, and my daughter, my oldest daughter, when we were driving to. I'd asked her what she wanted to do on Saturday, and she was like, "I want to go to the pumpkin patch." And the pumpkin patch is not just a pumpkin patch; it's a pumpkin patch, but it's really more of a fair, or a festival, and there's all sorts of toys and rides and events going on there. And she said, as we were driving there, she's like, "Hey, Dad, I want you to text Mom, and I want you to tell her to tell Taylor that we are having more fun than he's having in Florida."
Okay.
So
Wow.
she was wanting to one up my son, who she
Mhm.
knew was in Florida having a good time. She was like, "I want to do something that's going to one up him." And I just realized that was envy right there. That was her
Yeah.
envy coming out.
It's amazing. Or it's probably came from the fact that she's jealous
For
that
sure.
like,
hundred
she's,
percent.
yeah, yeah, right.
100%, man. I
Uh,
just, sorry again. I was just smiling. I was like, "Oh my
no.
gosh, that happened this weekend."
Well, they're
So
5.
yeah,
I mean, they're 5. I mean, that's how primal these emotions are.
yeah,
That's how
that's
deep
primal, man.
inside of us these emotions are, and that's why it's one of the 7 deadly sins.
Right.
And if you continually live with envy and jealousy, and that comes through comparison, it's like, what's your life going to be? You're just
It
going to
is going to be
continually,
deadly.
yeah, it's going to be deadly.
It's
You're
going to
going
be
to
deadly for
continually,
your soul, right?
yes,
I
and
mean,
because
like
you're
literally, you go
resenting.
through
God,
life
yeah,
because you're resenting the whole time, and like,
right,
how is
right,
that? That's not a way to live. It's not a way to
yeah.
live.
Not it's well, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's not a way to live a happy and fulfilled life. It's not a
Yeah,
way to live a life that you're going to, it's not gonna lead to a life that uh, it's not going to lead to a life that you're happy with. It's not going to lead to a life that that you're going to be motivated to continually do things that make you happy. Taking, like, I think one thing that I'm understanding about success, John, is the willingness and the ability to take risks, right? I mean, it's like if you're willing to take the risk, willing to put the hard work in, even to just get to that moment where you have to make that risky choice, it's like you must believe in yourself in such a deep way in order for the ability to take that risk. But if you're just kind of living somebody else's idea of who you should be, it's like, I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but it's like, there's got to be a willingness to change, and if you're not willing to change, then nothing is going to change, and you're always going to be looking around at everyone else that's making changes in their own life, and or having a great vacation, looks like a great vacation on Instagram or something. It's like, it's like, and that's why mindfulness is so, I think it's so profound and so important, because it first starts with that awareness, of that envy, which is a feeling, and then what do you do with that feeling, and then how do you begin to work your way, become at peace with that feeling, and understanding that feeling is an indication of something you're not doing. And therefore, if you're not doing it, then how do you begin to do those things in order to, take that step forward, take that risk, and then begin to reap the rewards of that taking that risk.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot. There's like also another loop that's going on here, and if you're constantly comparing, it's like, I wrote down earlier, it's like maybe start reading autobiographies or reading biographies of other great people out there in the world. That could be helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is definitely things here that you can use to better yourself, better those around you, better society, use envy in a positive light. And that's another thing I want to talk about with envy is you hit it just a second ago, the primal feeling that it is, right? It is primal. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
And to be aware that you're experiencing it is one thing, but then don't beat yourself up for experiencing it, because that's another negative loop that you can get into. Like, oh, damn, that person has the nice new car. Oh, damn, I'm envious of that person. Oh, damn. And you just kind of work your way into this frenzy of negative emotions. And then that doesn't serve you either. So being mindful about it, being aware that you're experiencing it, and then not judging yourself, but then doing that introspective work and saying, okay, why am I experiencing this? Well, because this is lacking in my life. How can I change it? Well, I can express gratitude for what I do have in my life. And I can express that self-compassion that you hit on earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the keys: gratitude, self-compassion, forgiveness, self-forgiveness, and then addressing it moving forward. I think those are the key points for overcoming envy. We're not going to do away with it. It's not going to just disappear from our lives.
Right.
But once we realize that we are experiencing envy, what do we do with it? How do we overcome it?
Well, it can go two ways, right? Envy can just take you down the negative, rabbit hole of comparison and self-sabotage, and then, regretting yourself and, regrets to other people, or use it as a positive tool to begin to be grateful for what you have. And grateful is, we've talked a lot about gratitude, and gratitude is like the key that opens up, the whole wonderful family of self-kindness and compassion and motivation and patience, and that you begin to process and synthesize the world in a positive way instead of a negative way.
Yep.
And and then therefore I'm looking at others as a way to be like, okay, what can I learn from them? How could their experience, and them reading about their experience or them talking about their experience, how could I step up? Like, that's why I'm doing this treadmill thing. I just want to I want to really challenge myself. And one of the reasons that I'm challenging myself, and I'm finding ways to work with this challenge, instead of getting, when stuff gets really hard, and this is just kind of a little microcosm of life. How you do anything is how you do everything. Right. So when I get down on myself and I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. So I got like, 8 minutes left or 7 minutes left, and I hang my head. Right. And I'm just like, oh, and then I'm like sauntering or like, complaining in my mind. But what I'm doing is like, no, it's like positive affirmation. Like, I can do this. And I lift my chest up, take my gaze out, right? Instead of like depressing the spine, which depresses my feelings and
Right.
depresses, gets me in psychological loops of depression. I can go up and like, I can do this. And then it just like, it's literally in that moment, I'm just like, instead of going down, right, in a negative, thought, a feeling in a negative thought pattern, I can go up and go out, and I can just go and go and go. When I finish that, I'm like, I did it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so happy I did that. So now I got a new reference point. I got a new self that I'm continually
The reference
developing,
point.
right? Because I'm challenging myself. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Right.
You gotta have those reference points figured out.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming up short on time.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do we want to wrap this up, man? I think we've addressed, the positive and negative sides of envy. We've addressed how to overcome it, how to use it for good, how to do that deep introspective work to be aware that you're experiencing it, but without judgment. What do you want to say in closing? And then I would love to change our closing practice rather than just the 5 breaths. I want to do a gratitude practice
Okay.
to wrap it up. I think
Yeah.
that's
Why
the
don't
way.
well, with the time we have, why don't we, maybe we could talk about something, an envious blind or spot that we have in our lives that we can kind of shift into something
Yeah, well, you
positive if we want to
definitely
do.
you forced me into an uncomfortable discussion earlier, which is good, right? You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, addressing what my kids have shown me. What have your family, your friends, your coworkers, maybe other people in your life, what have they shown you where you are envious? I think that's an important thing.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I live. I live in a city that's definitely not short of wealthy people,
Yeah,
with a lot of like, and uh, and to see their lives, and be a part of their lives, and actually get into their lives in a lot of ways. It's like, so that's definitely, something that is like, oh man, but at this, but I'll be using that as a motivational tool, just like I
yeah,
can create. I've been creating my own wealth, and it's just like, but then I start counting my blessings a bit, like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't given money, I didn't come from a tremendous amount of money, so I'm just slowly taking it, day by day, week by week, year by year, working to create more success in my life. Um, uh, so yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it's I would like a car, John. I'm not in the position right now to really afford a car, or do I want the headache of a car in the city?
that is a man. There's definitely headaches there. That's like
No, God,
I used to have a pool, and I was like, oh, I can't wait until I have a pool. And then once I did, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to never have a pool again.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so much work and headache.
Well, towards you, John, like, I love that you have a family and you have 3 wonderful kids and you've got a wonderful wife, and I see that future for myself as well. But there's work for me to do that,
Yeah,
and I've been doing some of that work, but I just need to step it up and just be like, I don't know. That's a weird thing, because I don't want to just be with anybody.
sure.
You know what I mean? Have kids with just anybody. I mean, that'd be a
No, you
disaster.
don't.
Then we into the
No,
negative
you do
side of
not.
envy. Like, why did I fuck up? So those are some of the things that I've been kind of working on, or just like being aware of, right? But also being self-compassionate, but also, I could probably put in more work in that regard in my life. But there's also a certain patience, and that's required. It's not easy, John, to to live your own life,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well, coming back
so
to what you just mentioned, you're looking at people who are married and who have children and everything, and the flip side is a lot of those who are married and have kids look back and they're like, fuck, Will has the life, man. I'm so envious of Will's single life, no kids, he can go out and do whatever he wants whenever he wants.
yeah, exactly.
Don't get me wrong, I love my life, I love
No,
my
yeah,
wife,
yeah,
I love my
yeah,
kids, but there's times, sure, that you kind of miss the freedom that we used to have, and that's
yeah,
back to being envious of our previous selves.
yeah,
All right, so we're getting the 10 after call here from our
yeah.
our
We gotta
beautiful
go.
executive assistant, Lindsay.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So we got to wrap it up, but I'll wrap it up with a
Oh,
gratitude
yeah,
practice because
let's do it.
of how, and I'll wrap compassion into that. Why not?
Please,
So
yes.
go ahead and get comfortable and whatever is safe and comfortable for you. And let's bring your attention to your breath. Bring yourself into the here and now. And being aware of what you do have, the blessings that are in your life now, the successes that you have had and that you will have, that you do have. Thankful for the friends, the family, the colleagues that you have, the promotions that you've had. And noticing that there are times that you are and will be envious, and being aware of that and being aware of what is causing that. You may be envious right now. Being aware of that, of what is causing that. And noting that without any judgment or guilt. Noting it and thinking about, now that you know what is causing that, how to address that. How to address that with yourself. And how to address that with those that you're envious of. And to wrap it up, bring yourself back to the gratitude. Be thankful for this time that you have spent thinking about and reflecting on envy and what you can do with it and about it. Be thankful for the life that you lead, the individual life, the individual soul that you are. No one has ever been like you. No one will ever be like you. And I am thankful for you. And we'll close with one deep cleansing breath together. Begin by breathing out as much air as you can. Deep breath in. And relax and close. And here we are. All right.
Right on time, brother.
Right on time. Thanks so much, Will. Great conversation.
Thank you,
really enjoyed it. And
Yeah,
I think
same.
hopefully you as our audience enjoyed it. If this was something that was helpful to you, something that you think may be helpful to others, please share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Don't let them be envious of you for watching this show and missing out, right?
Yeah,
All
share it with
these
them.
great knowledge bombs. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us, Will.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Yeah, peace, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out Men Talking Mindfulness